Hello everyone, it's Dove again. So I thought I would show you in this video how I make my firecracker blue cheese mushroom onion Swiss burgers that I showed you guys that were baking on July 4th when I made that video. A couple people asked for the recipe, and so I thought I would just make a video because I really love these things and I wanted to have them again, and it's only been like 2 weeks. But I'm back out here in my garage because it's a lot nicer out here than it is in the house. It's pretty stuffy in there. And because I bake these things, I really didn't want to turn on the oven in there. So I've got my little Coleman oven out here again. And I'm going to be cooking on my butane stove again. I've got my canister here ready. I just set it down in there. And then you just do the lock on it. And I've got to keep the cap here in my pocket or I'll lose it. Because after you're done using these stoves, you have to unlock the fuel and take that out and put the cap back on. So, keeping that in my pocket. I'm wearing my overalls today. So I've got plenty of pockets. And so what I normally do is I start out sauteing the mushrooms and the onions. I've got 8 ounces. It's kind of windy out here. Hopefully that isn't picking up. I've got 8 ounces of organic mushrooms, just regular button mushrooms, and I slice them myself with this really heavy duty slicer here. And then I use one small Vidalia or yellow onion or whatever, and I saute them in just a couple tablespoons of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And then while those are sauteing over here in my pan, this is my magma skillet. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these or not. See, my windscreen is so floppy it's not even staying up in this wind, so hopefully this is going to work. But this is a part of a nesting pot series, and the handles are removable. And so when I'm done sauteing this, this just barely fits. It fits perfect, like it was made for that little Coleman oven. I was so surprised and so pleased. But once I'm done sauteing the mushrooms and the onions, I will make up, while that's happening, I'll make up the hamburger patties, and it makes 4 of them, and I'll set them right on top of the mushrooms and the onions, and then I'll transfer this pot to my little Coleman oven. I'll set the Coleman oven up here on the burner. I've already got my my stone in there, my pizza stone, to help distribute the heat evenly. I've got my little thermometer. I usually bake them at like 375 for about 45 minutes, and I'll write the recipe down and put it in the description box for you guys. And so yeah, when I'm ready, I'll just stick that in the oven and take the handle off, and I'll let it bake in here. Normally I would use a square 8x8 glass baking pan, and so if I was in the kitchen, I would take my skillet, just any other skillet. This is mine that I'm taking with me on the road, so in the house I would just use one of those, and I would saute the mushrooms and onions and transfer it to the baking dish, and then I'd put the hamburger patties on top of that. But I'm trying to conserve on dishes and all that, and so I'm really happy that this pan actually fits inside of my oven. And so for the burgers, I use 1 pound of ground beef, and I use 4 ounces. It is a lot. This is 4 ounces of blue cheese, and it is quite a bit in here, and that's what makes them so very good, because they're really juicy and cheesy and yummy. They're really good. And this doesn't have any anti-caking ingredients or anything. It's just straight up blue cheese. So that's why I like this brand quite a bit. And then for the fire part of the firecracker, I use my own canned diced jalapenos, and that's what makes them so hot, because these jalapenos from my garden were really super hot. If I didn't have access to these, I would just use a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, and that's pretty much all you can find in the store. You might be able to find diced jalapenos. If you can, use those, because then they'll be nice and hot. And so I've already used, this was an 8-ounce jar, and so normally I would use half of this jar. I've already used a quarter of it in my refried beans, and so I'll use, that much, and then leave another quarter for another batch of my refried beans or whatever. So yeah, 4-ounce can of diced chilies of whatever. And then for the seasoning, I use a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce and a tablespoon of garlic granules, and I use 3/4 of a teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning from Mountain Rose Herbs, and these are all organic spices and everything. And then I use just 1/4 of a teaspoon of the pink Himalayan salt, and that's it. They're really simple, but because they get baked in the oven, they come out super juicy. They keep their juices and everything. And then, you know, I use Dave's Killer Bread. They've got white done right buns, and we just put the mushrooms and onions on top of that and put the burger on top. Well, I bake these for 45 minutes at 375 or so, covered with foil, and then after that I take the foil off and normally I would put sliced Swiss cheese, but we don't have any of that, so I'm using pepper jack cheese. And so I'll just take the foil off of the pan and put sliced pepper jack on all 4 of the patties, and then put it back in the oven for just, 5 minutes. It doesn't take very long. Alright, so my ex will be home soon, and I'm not quite sure I'm going to be able to film any of the subsequent process, but I'll try to just check back with you every so often when nobody's out here. Alright guys, talk to you later. Okay, so I've got my onion sliced. I just make circular sliced pieces, and I wanted to show you guys with the mushrooms. I don't know if you are aware, but you're not supposed to actually wash mushrooms. You're not supposed to rinse off the dirt, and they're pretty dirty. Like, if you can see that, they're pretty dirty. And so what you're supposed to do is just wipe them down. And I wanted to show you, that was the dirt from just one mushroom, that one right there. And so what I do is, let me set the camera down here. Let's see if I can show you. I take the stem and I pop that out. I go in one direction and then I turn it and go in the other direction, and it pops right out. And I don't use that part. And then I just start at the crown and wipe downwards. And that's all it takes. And if you get the organic mushrooms, a little bit of dirt is really not going to hurt you. Sorry the camera's sitting crooked, but I'm kind of in a hurry here. And so your fingers get all sorts of dirty when you're doing this, but it really is better than washing them, because when you rinse a mushroom, it absorbs a lot of that water, and you don't want to do that. You want your mushrooms nice and dry when you're sauteing them. If you were throwing them in a soup or whatever, I guess you wouldn't worry about it. You could just rinse them off. But these are being sauteed in oil, and you don't want them to have water on them. So again, I go pop, pop, and that thing pops right out. You could use the stems if you wanted. I just don't feel the need to, so it is a waste, but I guess if I was trying to be really, really conservative, I would do that. But these are, kind of woody and stuff. It wouldn't really hurt anything, but the sliced mushrooms work better on hamburgers. I'm working on my my plywood here. I don't know if you noticed it or not. I've got a piece of my plywood out here, and I just covered it with my tarp, because I need to get back to polyurethaning. This is the first day in like 2 weeks that it hasn't rained or threatened to rain. And again, I'm not getting all the dirt off, and I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. If I was buying regular mushrooms, I think I would be more worried about it. But these are organic, and it's not going to hurt anything. And let me show you real quick how I slice them, because I'm probably going to have to turn off the camera. And these are, it's so dirty that I brought my my baby wipes out here because the dirt just wants to cling to your hands. So that's the one downside, I guess, to slicing your own mushrooms. Cleaning them and slicing them because they're really dirty. But whatever. If I was in the kitchen, I'd have the sink there. But this little mushroom slicer, it's really cool. You have to set it in there with the top side down. And then because once you bring the blade towards it like that, it actually tries to push the mushroom out. And so you kind of have to keep your hand there and very carefully just start placing it right there, just so that the blades are just in there, and then you can move your hand and press down on it. And then I just pick them right up off of the thing and then just separate them by hand. I'll show you again. It doesn't really work that well that way because the blades go through the bottom side easier. And if your mushrooms are too big, then you have to actually cut the mushroom in half before you can do this. This is the lazy way of getting nice uniform slices of mushroom. I could just use a knife, but you know, it's not as much fun. And then they wouldn't be perfect. But yeah, you do have to be careful because you have to hold that mushroom in there before, so that he doesn't slide out before the blades can get engaged with it. And so I just put my hand there and just kind of barely go in it with the blade, and then I take my hand out. That one was almost too big. But right now I'm gonna start my flame over here because I'm almost done with slicing all this stuff up. And so I've already got my canister in and it's locked. And yeah, that looks to be about medium. Now my neighbors are out, so I'm probably gonna have to stop filming. But yeah, that's about medium. Yep. Yep, my neighbors are out. Alright. So that's about how much oil I use. Not very much. And then I'll wipe off this because the oil spills, of course. So I will finish slicing those and I will get them sauteed. And while that's happening, I'm gonna go ahead and make my hamburger mixture. Alright, see ya. Okay, that's oil is hot. It's almost too hot right now. I had to go into the house for something. No, it's just right. It felt a little bit too hot, but it's okay. I don't know how well this is going to work with this wind, but I didn't want to do this in the house. Yeah, it's almost too hot, but I caught it just in time. Normally I'd be flipping it and doing that, but this is not the type of skillet that flips very well. It's pretty heavy too. Yeah, it's almost too heavy. I normally use a lighter skillet to saute these in, but that'll work. They're all coated with that oil. Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this windscreen. It is not wanting to cooperate. I had to turn the flame down a little bit. It was almost a little bit too high. Actually, I think I might need more oil. Just put it right there in the middle and let it get hot. Doesn't take long at all. I can't tell how high the flame is on this thing. It's really hard to tell on these little stoves. That should be alright though. Alright. Let me see if I can take you out here and show you this now. And do the ground beef. I'm gonna try to do this before my ex comes home, right? Flip the screen up so I can see if you're in. Yeah, you are. Kinda, huh? Sorry guys. Just doing this on the fly here. I hate these things. When it's so humid, it is really hard to get those on. And thankfully that hamburger has, or the ground beef has a little pull tab thing on it. And so to start with, I just break it up and just make like a bed of ground beef in the bottom so that all the other ingredients have somewhere to land. If you're vegetarian, I'm sorry. You should probably not have even clicked on the video. Alright, and because I am not ready to mix that in yet, I'm gonna hold it and take my glove, go inside out. And I've got a box down here with all my trash. That's all my scrapings and everything that go in it. And then for the blue cheese, it's usually a little bit too crumbly or too big, not crumbly enough. And so sometimes I have to take a fork and break up some of the bigger pieces. It's usually okay, but some of them are just too big. I've got flies all around me. I've got mosquitoes all around me. They're going crazy now that I open this ground beef. Alright. And normally I would drain the peppers, but I'm winging it here. I didn't bring out my little strainer, so I'm just pushing the juice out. I'm just tilting the jar to the side and pushing the juice out. Oh, these flies are gonna annoy me. I can see that already. Because I don't need any of that juice in it. I just want the peppers. And my ex he normally likes really hot food, but his tummy hasn't been agreeing with really hot stuff lately. So I guess I'm not gonna use as many peppers as I normally do. And then I just push the peppers back down into the juice, into the vinegar brine that I canned them in. And then I try to use as few measuring spoons as possible, and because, okay, sorry, my battery died. What I was trying to say is, since I use a tablespoon of garlic and a tablespoon of the Worcestershire, I measure out the garlic first so that I can use the same measuring spoon. I know that seems like a lot of garlic, because it is, but it really makes them very, very flavorful. If you don't like garlic, don't add that much, obviously. But I like a lot of garlic. And you can't even tell that it's really heavy on the garlic. You can just only really tell that it tastes really good. And then again, wiping off the rim of every container so that you don't make a mess. And then I use 3/4 of a teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. These flies are really annoying. They came out in full force when I opened that package of ground beef. Imagine that, right? And then for the salt, it's only just 1/4 teaspoon. Maybe a little bit more. I make it a little bit heaping. It doesn't need a lot. But yeah, sorry about that. My battery died. I'm out here getting bitten by mosquitoes, and that's ticking me off. Let's check on the mushrooms and onions. Well, I should have stirred them before then. They're trying to start to stick. They're just about ready. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up that ground beef and form them into 4 patties. Again with the gloves. I wish it wasn't so humid here, but it is what it is. I've got my overalls so my legs are protected, but the mosquitoes are biting my feet, of course. I can't even get them on all the way, but it's alright. I think before I touch anything over here with this hand, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my skillet because those are pretty much done. And I don't want them getting overdone. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. Oh my god, the flies. I don't know how I'm going to do this with only one hand. Let me show you real quick though. Those are all done. They're getting nice and golden brown. So I just spread it out as evenly as I can. And I form 4 hamburgers. And I just place them right like that. I'm not going to be able to show you that, I don't think, because both of my hands are going to be dirty. I can try maybe. Oh. And this is a really small bowl to be putting this in. But I'm kind of just acting like I'm a nomad already and working with the equipment I think that I'm going to have on the road. And I'm not going to have big mixing bowls. I will have like my little salad spinner, but I don't think I want to be making hamburger in a plastic salad spinner bowl because I would just worry about it not ever getting clean enough. Yep. And you don't want to handle it too much because then the ground beef can start to get tough. And so I just mix it enough that everything's evenly distributed. And then I just push it down. This work surface is so wobbly. I'm sorry. Because the camera's probably shaking right along with everything else. And then I just evenly portion it as best as I can into 4 balls. And I just make them into balls first so that I can tell how much each one weighs. Like I already know that one's too light, and so I'll take it from that one and try to keep them all evenly proportioned. And I don't like the original recipe that I followed. They were grilling these, and I added a lot to it. I tweak recipes all the time. And they were grilling them, and I don't like to do that because then the blue cheese oozes out. And that's why I like to bake them, because it keeps all that goodness in. And so yeah, they're about all the same size. And then I just smoosh them lightly and try to get them evenly made. I just try not to handle it too much. But I get them as flat as possible because they like poof up like hamburgers want to do. And so I just get them as flat as I can. I wish these flies would go away. I don't think they're going to until this stuff goes in the oven. And see, the blue cheese wants to come out, and I don't want that, so I'll just take that big piece and just shove it there in the middle so that there's nothing really protruding around the edges. And if you don't like it this hot, just use less peppers, or just use dried, the diced green chilies instead of diced jalapenos. Because then it won't be hot hardly at all. And so good. I'm done with this. I'm gonna have to sanitize my tarp here because I got some hamburger on it. That was gross. And then I just take them and turn them all inside out like that. Grab the other one, grab the wrist, and I'm not even touching it. And so I'm totally clean here. Sorry that I'm talking low. My neighbors are out and I'm trying not to draw attention to myself. So this is what it looks like. I just lay them in there just like that. I already turned off the flame, so now I'm gonna have to get the oven up here and get foil on that. I need to move all this stuff. I'm not very organized. Ooh, I just touched that. Okay, I'm wiping it off. I do have hand sanitizer out here with me too. I'll throw that away. So yeah, I'm just gonna take this because the pan's still really hot, so I've got my hot pads over here. And then I can make room over here for my oven. And it's kind of hard to center this with only one hand. So, but you want to just center it on the burner as much as possible. And I can see I need to come forward on it. I'm just trying to get this little oven as centered as humanly possible onto this grate down here. And that looks about right. And again, I've got my pizza stone in here, my thermometer, and having it on medium, that gives me about 400 degrees, 425, 400 when it's right at the medium mark. I don't know if you can see that flame or not. It's really hard to see. But yeah, once I open the door and put the pan in there, the temperature will drop. But I have to just go ahead and keep it at this temperature if I want it to stay like 375 in there or so. So that's what I'll do next. I'll cover these so that the flies will stay out. And when they're all done, I will show you what they look like. See you then. Alright guys, so inside of there is about 350 right now. I normally bake these at 375, but it's getting late and I'm getting antsy and I just need to get these burgers in the oven because they still have to bake for 45 minutes to an hour. So I've got my magma skillet over here and I covered it with aluminum foil, and that handle will come right off. So I've got to open this. You can see it says about 350. I'm going to very carefully stick this in there, and it just barely fits with without the foil. So with the foil, that's why that happened. So you just press that button pull that handle off. I'm losing a lot of heat doing this right now, but it's all still covered. And so yeah, I just lost 25 to 50 degrees. So this isn't the most efficient way to bake, that's for sure, but it's the only thing I'm gonna have on the road, and so I'm just gonna have to deal with it. Again, like I said in my fireworks July 4th video, I have welding blankets that I bought to fashion up some kind of a cover for this, because it's losing heat right there. And right here where you adjust that inside rack, I'm losing heat on those holes. And so I'm going to make a cover that just covers the top and also the back right here. And then the front, obviously, I won't be able to cover. But hopefully that'll help insulate it and make it so that I'm not losing so much heat. Again, I have it right about there. It's a pretty high flame for being, you know, medium on the dial. So I will set my timer for 45 minutes, and then at that point I will take that foil off and put my sliced jalapeno jack on it and let it coast and let it melt, and we'll be good to go. Like I said, I just use Dave's Killer Bread. It's the white done right buns. They're really good. And so we just take one of the hamburgers and put it on the bun and put some of the mushrooms and the onions on top, and then I usually put mayonnaise on the top portion of the bun, because usually mushroom Swiss burgers, the only topping you have is mayonnaise. They don't do like any other, no ketchup or anything like that. So that's how I finish it out. And while those are baking, I am going to finish my homemade potato salad, and if I video that at all, it'll be in a separate video because this one is already getting super long. So I will talk to you later. Okay guys, so it's been 45 minutes. I took the skillet out. I had to put the handle on. I put my cheese on here. I had to break it up into little small pieces because these squares they're too big for the burgers. And so the oven's still on. Yes, my ex is home. I'm trying to be quiet. I'm trying to be quick. So this fits much better in here without the foil. That foil actually adds an extra layer that makes it hard to get the pan in there. But see how easy that handle comes off? And it's still about 325 in there. And so I'm just going to let that cheese melt and we will be ready to eat. I finished the potato salad, but I couldn't film it, so I'm going to have to make another batch some other time and hopefully be able to record that. As you can see, it's dark out right now. I've got all my plywood out here ready to be sanded and polyurethaned again. I've got one more coat of polyurethane to go. So keep your fingers crossed that it's going to be nice all this week and I can get some more work done on my rig. Alright guys, I might show you a picture at the end, but I might not. But you can only imagine. It's going to be very good, very melty, yummy. And again, I'll just put it on a bun with the mushrooms and the onions and some mayonnaise, and it'll be good to go. We'll have potato salad on the side. Alright guys, talk to you later. Love you. Hope you're doing well.